Welcome back to Blizzard Abroad. So there's a lot of voices online claiming to speak for the everyday man. You know, you hear them every day. They're loud, they're bitter, they're upset. You know, either that or they're better than everybody else. You know, they haven't made. They're living like kings. You know, so while claiming to speak for the everyday man, I think truly they have forgotten who the everyday man is. You know, because the everyday man in America is not bitter, angry, and upset. You know, he has his struggles, you know, but he still shows up every day. You know, he's fighting his own battles inside. He's fighting his own demons, you know, but he's still coaching and mentoring, you know, the next generation. He's still happy to provide and take care of his family and to fulfill the duties, you know, that comes along, you know, with all of those responsibilities of being a man today. You know, the everyday man, yes, he may be tired, he may be beaten down, but he's not running away from his problems. He's standing firm, even if at the same time he's planning for bigger and better things in a different way of life. That's the everyday man that I know, that I respect, you know. So I just want to say that, you know, these loud and angry and bitter voices, they don't speak for the everyday man, you know, because the everyday man is not cowering. He's not running away from the burden of masculinity. He doesn't need to escape. You know, sometimes he just needs to be heard, to feel like he's seen. You know, so what we hear online is people constantly claiming to speak for the everyday man, but they're not. They're speaking at the everyday man, which is what the everyday man is used to anyway. You know, like these guys break the everyday man down into two categories, basically. You know, either the alpha male, high value, you know, high value man who wants to escape the matrix, you know, and live like a king overseas, you know, or the simp, that the simp, you know, lost, broken man, you know, who is doomed to fail if he decides that he does not want to escape the West in America, you know. But if we're being honest, you know, if we're being honest, just straight up honest, without any of the BS on it, man, we know that the everyday man, the struggles we face, they're way more nuanced than that. You know, not everybody wants to escape. Not everybody has something to escape from. You know, and that's the thing that we just won't acknowledge online because we're chasing clicks and views. You know, those loud, angry voices, they don't speak for us, man. We know that, you know, usually the loudest voice in the room comes from the weakest man. We know that. We've heard it our whole life. You know, the loudest one is usually the weakest one. And weak men do not speak for the everyday man. They don't, you know. So my goal is just to speak and call balls and strikes and just tell it like I see it. I don't know everything. I haven't experienced everything, you know. But I'm just a man. I'm just a blue collar everyday man, you know. And more, you know, I'm realizing that there's not a lot of voices that represent my true feelings. You know, I may agree with people half the time. I may not agree with people that are speaking. You know, but I do realize that, you know, there's no one size fit all, you know, solution for our problems, because we're not all the same. We're not all experiencing the same things. We're not all coming from the same starting point, and we all don't have the same destination. You know, so let's not beat down on other people just because they don't agree. You know, let's not, you know, attack the everyday man because he doesn't have the same values. He doesn't have the same, you know, destination as us. You know, because we're all men and we all need each other. And it's the same on the other side. It's the same with the women. This is people in general, you know. Most of us are just trying to live our lives and trying to figure out, um, you know, how to get through life, man. How to navigate this world we live in. How to take care of our families, you know, how to leave some sort of legacy, you know, and how to reach our goals, whatever they may be. That's the everyday man. That's the everyday person. We don't live on the extremes. We don't live in echo chambers, you know. And traveling outside of the country has kind of like opened my eyes to a lot of things, man. It's humbled me. It's made me grateful for what I do have. And it's made me realize that, you know, we are some of the most entitled people on this planet, man. Not in a good way, you know, in a bad way. You know, we take for granted some things that, you know, people long for. You know? So we need to just, sometimes I think we need to slow down. You know, we need to actually listen to ourselves. You know, we need to look in the mirror sometimes. You know, just food for thought from Blizzard Abroad. This is just my opinion. Like always, just my opinion. It's just the way I see things because I'm an observer. I listen a lot. I watch. I listen. You know, and it's just fact. You know that most of these loud, angry voices, they don't represent, you know, the true feelings of the everyday man. They don't. You know, half of the people I talk to, they still don't know what a passport bro is. You know, they still don't know, and they don't have to. You know, if they wanted to know, it's easy to find. You know, so we need to stop acting like we speak for everybody. We don't. We speak, and the thing I realize is that, you know, these so-called gurus, you know, they don't speak to everybody. They speak to the people who believe what they have to say. You know, and if you ever want to test that theory, you know, all you have to do is disagree with one of them and see how they react. You know, are they gonna yell at you? Are they gonna call you weak, lost, blind, a puppet, a sheep? What? How do they react? You know, there's a lot of good ones out there that do have good messages. You know, who are sharing good information. You know, but make them earn your view. Vet them. Vet them. Ask them who is this person. You know, what what are their motivations? You know, we need to be asking these questions, man. And are they living what they're preaching? You know. So this is just my thoughts from Blizzard Abroad. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I appreciate you guys for watching me. You know, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, Blizzard Abroad. Weak men do not speak for the everyday man.